Support for Trifles comes from listeners like you, who support us through Patreon and Substack. Bonus material, thank you gifts, and more await at patreon.com/trifles and at trifles.substack.com. And now you can enjoy some Trifles swag, mugs, notepads, and oval stickers, available in our store. Find it at ihearofsherlock.com/merchandise.
Welcome to Trifles, a weekly podcast about the Sherlock Holmes stories.
It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles.
Yes, the lip was twisted, the soldier was blanched, and the men were dancing, but there are so many other details to pick apart in the stories.
Pray, be precise as to details.
You know the plots, but what about the minutiae? Have you ever stopped to wonder about whatever happened to Inspector Gregson? Or Mrs. Hudson's husband? Or of Holmes's early clients?
You are very inquisitive, Mr. Holmes.
It is my business to know what other people don't know.
Scott Monty and Bert Wolder will have the answers to these questions and more in Trifles.
The game's afoot.
Episode 497, The Shivers. Hello there, and welcome to Trifles, the Sherlock Holmes podcast where we get into the minutiae in the Sherlock Holmes stories. I'm Scott Monty.
I'm Bert Wolder.
And Bert shiver when you say that. Well, this should be an interesting show. We've got, we're at the height of the heat in July. Actually, we've just surpassed the height of the heat. I think the heat dome broke over the northern portion of the United States recently, so it's only high 80s instead of high 90s. But isn't it ironic that we'll be talking about shivering in July? It's like Christmas in July here on Trifles. Well, it's one of those things where we just found a little quirky thing, a little trifle in one corner of the cannon, and we took our magnifying glasses out and blew it up to explore beyond that one area. Yeah, watch for the shrapnel. Ow. Watch for the slivers of shivers as they may be around. But we will be investigating this, the meaning of the word and where it appears and how it appears across the Sherlock Holmes stories. We'd ask that if you have it within your soul, the kindness, the thoughtfulness, the generosity we know that you are made of, because you are a Trifles listener, to support the show. You can do that for as little as $1 a month, even less if you take out an annual subscription on a site like Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/trifles. There's also other options available at higher levels where thank you gifts kick in. And we also have a presence on Substack. And what happens if you subscribe on these platforms is you get to listen to the show without ad interruptions at the beginning and end of the show, like so many of the other people have to sit through. And the ads help us keep the lights on here, but so do your donations. So does your support on Patreon and Substack. So check those out. See how that feels to you. And there's also bonus content available there too. Extended conversations, additional content like Trifling Trifles. We have a recent episode out about Lomax, the sub-librarian. You might want to check that out. And that is exclusively for our supporters. And don't forget, if you support us at any level, your name automatically goes into the drawing at the end of every month for a free back issue of the Baker Street Journal, just because we want to make it worth your while. So check that out, and we thank you. Okay, shiver me timbers, Bert. That's interesting. Shiver me timbers as a phrase, which is known throughout pirate lore, that would seem to be related to what we're going to talk about today.
Well, it's one of two meanings. When you look up the word, one of the things you find out is that there's a meaning that goes back to Middle English, and that's the root around the shaking part of shivers. And that's basically something that's connected to an Old English word meaning jaw. But there's this completely separate, apparently. Of course, I asked AI, so it has to be true. Completely separate Old English Proto-Germanic root, meaning fragment or splinter, und zot is connected to the German shiver. The verb form for this meaning describes breaking or shattering something into tiny pieces.
Interesting.
So, and that gets you to the origin behind the pirate expression, shiver my timbers, which translates to splinter my wooden ship, darn it.
Or, if you're a peg leg, your leg.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan Small.
The timber toe. Well, yeah, and I think we're going to come across certainly that usage. There is also the traditional usage of trembling, and it's that typically is related to fear. There is the shiver related to being cold, as one might see, shivering out in the cold. Yep. And there's another one associated with those who are lying prostrate, perhaps ready to expire, or who have passed out in some way and are trembling as part of their physical circumstance. It has nothing to do with psychology at that point. So why don't we dive in and see exactly where we find the shivers? We have a case of the shivers here on Trifles in the Sherlock Holmes stories.
Good idea. Why don't we do that? Well, we could start, I suppose, with the Hound of the Baskervilles, but that's not shivers. That's just a single shiver. But that seems to be an early appearance of the word, not all that early. But it comes in chapter 14 at the Hound of the Baskervilles when, where are we?
Actually, I'm going to back up. There's one in chapter 6.
Oh, good.
In Hound.
Good.
This we have Watson making his way out to Baskerville Hall with Sir Henry. They hear about Selden, the Notting Hill murderer. Right. Watson tells us, I remembered the case well, for it was one in which Holmes had taken an interest on account of the peculiar ferocity of the crime and the wanton brutality which had marked all the actions of the assassin. Notice that's not wanton brutality, which happened in the Chinese district. Sorry. The commutation of his death sentence had been due to some doubts as to his complete sanity. So atrocious was his conduct. Our wagonette had topped the rise, and in front of us rose the huge expanse of the moor, mottled with gnarled and craggy cairns and tors. A cold wind swept down from it and set us shivering. Somewhere there on that desolate plain was lurking this fiendish man, hiding in a burrow like a wild beast, his heart full of malignancy against the whole race which had cast him out.
Yeah, I like that. We should stick with shivering. I had foolishly looked at just shivers, and of course that took me to what I thought was an early reference to a neighbor of Stapleton's out in Dartmoor, the famous music hall comedian Phil Shivers, who was a neighbor and who was forced to move to Dartmoor because of his very bad reviews. Never went back on stage again. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know.
Yeah,
he's shivering somewhere. Well, there is another shiver, and you're right. It's later. It's chapter 14. Holmes has emerged from his hiding spot and has made his presence known to those around him. And Holmes says it's a waiting game. And he says, "My word, it does not seem a very cheerful place," said the detective with a shiver. glancing around him at the gloomy slopes of the hill.
See, isn't that interesting? That's a very rare appearance of Watson characterizing a physical emotional reaction of Sherlock Holmes to something.
And it had to be, the ambiance there had to be serious, because if it affected Holmes such, it was really intense.
Yeah.
That just adds to the setting that Conan Doyle gives us there.
Yeah, very good.
And later in the chapter, it looked like Sir Henry, of course, had been chased by the beast.
Right.
And Holmes and Watson saved him in the nick of time. He had fallen down. They tore away his collar. Holmes breathed a prayer of gratitude when we saw that there was no sign of a wound and that the rescue had been in time. Already, our friend's eyelids shivered, and he made a feeble effort to move. So that's in an instance when some other writers might say that someone's eyelids flickered.
Yeah,
same kind of thing there as he comes to.
See, and that's a rare scene, because it's a scene in which Lestrade takes over the great medical task of restoring Sir Henry to life. Lestrade thrusts his brandy flask between the baronet's teeth, and two frightened eyes were looking up at us. And of course, that does it for Sir Henry. He's getting fitter and fitter by the microsecond.
Yeah.
And then will eventually say, "Give me another mouthful of that brandy, and I shall be ready for anything." Wow.
And then he tried to stagger to his feet. Well, after mouthfuls of brandy, he would have been staggering, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But he was still ghastly pale and trembling in every limb.
Yeah.
We helped him to a rock where he sat, shivering, with his face buried in his hands. Now, you think, again, what he had just been through, the trauma he had just been through of almost being taken down by the Hound of the Baskervilles. He was in shock at this point. And it's a very physical reaction to something that was really more psychological in nature rather than truly physical.
Yeah.
So that's Shivering in the Hound. Close by, the Valley of Fear.
Oh, the Valley of Fear.
Yeah. We've got McGinty and Baldwin together. McGinty, of course, was Jack McGinty, body master.
Right.
And
right.
And Ted Baldwin, local tough guy. And McGinty had him by the shirt collar.
Yeah.
And he released his hold, and Baldwin, cowed and shaken, gasping for breath and shivering in every limb.
Yeah.
If you can make a guy like Ted Baldwin shiver, man.
Well, that's what it's like when two brothers of the lodge find out that they're at odds.
And interestingly, we get another use of the word later in the story. When Bertie Edwards makes himself known, and the hissing of the kettle upon the stove rose sharp, strident to the ear. 7 white faces, all turned upward to this man who dominated them, were set motionless with utter terror. Then, with a sudden shivering of glass, a bristle of glistening rifle barrels broke through each window, while the curtains were torn from their hangings. So we have a shivering of glass.
Yeah.
And that is reminiscent to the 6 Napoleons. Where in the final scene there, Holmes, let's see, this was a description of what happened. Morse Hudson at his shop. The assistant had left the shop for an instant, heard a crash, and hurrying in, he found a plaster bust of Napoleon, which stood with several other works of art upon the counter, lying shivered into fragments. So shivering of glass and Napoleon bust shivered into fragments.
Well, and then there are a couple of cases in the canon where people themselves who have been through these terrible experiences are recounting them to Sherlock Holmes. And one is in The Blanched Soldier, when we are hearing about the...
when Godfrey made his way back home, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we're hearing all about those...
oh, no, and not when he made his way back home, when he found a place to stay after he had been out.
Right. And then, we hear that he fell off his horse at some point, and he says, when I came to myself, it was nightfall, and I raised myself up. And at the end of it all, he's trying to recall what had happened, and says, I have a dim memory of slowly ascending the steps, entering a wide open door, and he threw himself on a bed. And this is sort of what leads to this issue in The Blanched Soldier, because he has no idea where he is. And he draws the bedclothes over his shivering body and will wake up and find that he's in a very strange place indeed, a place which will eventually lead him to the unhappy conclusion that he's contracted leprosy,
right?
Which at the end of the case we will find called into question.
Correct. Yeah, so in that case, shivering was a result of the temperature.
Yeah.
And he told us he was chilled to the bone. And it was a sickening sort of cold. He said, deadly sickening sort of cold. Very different from a crisp, healthy frost.
Yeah.
And also in The Creeping Man, when Alice was being awoken in the middle of the night with some monkey business.
Yes, friends, if you have small female children and you wish to warp them for life, after you've gotten them to read The Speckled Band, turn them to The Creeping Man and find the comforting, well, not really very, story of poor Miss Presbury, who's recounting these strange events to Holmes and Watson, and says, it happened that the blind was up in my window and there was bright moonlight outside, and as I lay with my eyes fixed upon the square of light, listening to the frenzied barkings of the dog, I was amazed to see my father's face looking in at me, Mr. Holmes. I nearly died of surprise and horror. And then she tells you a little bit more about that and says, I lay paralyzed, and then it vanished. I could not spring out of bed and look out after it. I lay cold and shivering till morning. And who wouldn't if they read that or heard that in Baker Street?
I don't know. Boy, that's when you just pull the covers over your head.
Yeah.
Well, this notion of shivering with fear, this to me, the one that brings it to the fore here is when we meet Helen Stoner.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Holmes is roused out of bed early, and he retorts on Watson, and he finally enters the room, sees a lady dressed in black, heavily veiled. He introduces himself, Holmes and Watson, and he said, I'm glad to see that Mrs. Hudson has had the good sense to light the fire. Pray draw up to it, and I shall order you a cup of hot coffee, for I observe you are shivering. And she famously says, it is not cold which makes me shiver. What then? It is fear, Mr. Holmes, it is terror. And Watson noted her pitiable state of agitation, her face all drawn and gray, with restless, frightened eyes like those of some hunted animal. So that's the shivers from being terrified.
Yeah. It's really a lovely, lovely paragraph, too. Watson says her features and figure were those of a woman of 30, but her hair was shot with premature gray, and her expression was weary and haggard.
And you know who else was freaked out by goings-on at home is Mrs. Ronder.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't Mrs. It was Mrs. Warren, who was housing Mrs. Ronder.
Oh, right.
And she was concerned. She said her health, Mr. Holmes, seems to be wasting away. There's something terrible on her mind. Murder, she cries, murder. And I once heard her. You cruel beast, you monster, she cried. It was in the night, and it rang fair through the house and sent the shivers through me. So I went to her in the morning. If you have anything that's troubling your soul, there's the clergy, I says, and there's the police. Between them, you should get some help. So sent the shivers through Mrs. Warren.
Well, and there's a memorable...
Excuse me, Mrs. Marillo. We're gonna get mail. Mrs. Warren was the red circle. It's Mrs. Marillo from Veiled Lodger.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a very good self-correction because that's a hard character to recall. Yeah. Well, and there's another appearance of the word shivering that comes from the lips of a snake-like, the most evil man in London, Milverton himself. You know, Holmes and Watson are in Milverton's study, and they're hiding. And they observe that Milverton looked at his watch, and once he gets up and sits down again with a gesture of impatience. And then Milverton rises and opens the door and says to his new occupant, the person who's coming into the room, "You're nearly half an hour late. And you've made me lose a good night's rest, my dear. You wouldn't come any other time? Well, if you could, you couldn't." And then he says, "Well, if you couldn't, you couldn't. But if the Countess is a hard mistress, we have your chance to get level with her now. Bless the girl, what are you shivering about? Now, let's get down to business." And, of course, he thinks he's dealing with a servant in the house of someone, 5 letters which compromise the Countess d'Albert that she wants to sell. And then the woman, without a word, raises her veil and drops the mantle from her chin and says, "It's I, the woman whose life you have ruined." And Milverton laughs, but fear vibrates in his voice with good reason.
Yeah, that's a great scene right there. And one could understand why someone of that nature might be shivering in the run-up to what she knew she had planned to do. Well, there are a couple of other mentions in the Stockbroker's Clerk, Black Peter, but I wanted to move into 2 instances of an animal that had the shivers. Both animals were dogs. Do you know which stories the shivering dogs appeared in, Bert?
The shivering dogs. That's a great case. That I don't recall Watson ever really writing about.
The case of the shivering dog. Well, we are greeted with one early on in A Study in Scarlet.
Oh, right.
You remember the dog, the terrier, the unfortunate terrier.
Yes.
That was experimented upon at Baker Street. And yes. Holmes had turned the contents of the wine glass, he said, into the saucer, placed it in front of the terrier, who speedily licked it dry. And then Holmes kind of stood there watching his pocket watch. And the terrier's just the same, right? And Holmes gnawed his lip, drummed his fingers on the table, showed every other symptom of acute impatience. So it can't be a coincidence. It's impossible it should be a mere coincidence. The very pills which I suggested in the case of Drebber actually found after the death of Stangerson, and yet they are inert. What can it mean?
Aha.
Oh, I have it. That's right. A shriek of delight, he rushed to the box, cut the other pill in two, dissolved it, added milk, and presented it to the terrier. The unfortunate creature's tongue seemed hardly to have been moistened in it before it gave a convulsive shiver in every limb and lay as rigid and lifeless as if it had been struck by lightning. Poor doggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Study in Scarlet.
Yeah, and very good.
Interestingly enough, we have another poisoned dog that has the shivers in the Sussex Vampire.
Oh, right.
Remember Carlo?
Sussex, I do.
Carlo was the, again, animal experimentation that was going on in the canon. Young Jack had been experimenting with the curare-tipped arrows, first trying it out on Carlo. And Holmes had questioned what the matter was with the dog, and Ferguson said, well, that's a puzzle the vet. Sort of paralysis, spinal meningitis, he thought. But it's passing. He'll soon be all right, won't you, Carlo? A shiver of assent passed through the drooping tail. The dog's mournful eyes passed from one of us to the other. He knew that we were discussing his case.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, that's interesting because I never noticed before that there are two dogs named Carlo in the canon.
Yeah.
One, of course, is this one, but the other is the Mastiff in Copper Beeches.
That's right.
And he's quite a fearsome fellow.
He is, indeed. And then I think we'll conclude with the one inanimate object. Well, not inanimate, but the one non-living object in the canon that shivered. Do you have any idea what it is or was?
Oh, yeah. I am pretty sure that, it was a non-living object. Well, shivered. Was it, wait a minute. Was it the bust of Napoleon?
No, that was broken into Shivers.
Well, it was shivered. It says shivered. That's the word.
Yeah, well, that's shivered in terms of the splintering definition of shiver.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm going for.
Oh, that's not what you're going for.
So, let's go to his last bow.
Oh, yeah, the great car. Right.
Yeah.
Touch from the Baron's chauffeur. The great car shivered and chuckled. Boy, what a car. That must have been.
It's like the Maxwell from the Jack Benny show.
Yeah. That's right. That was the Mercedes MB, which was named after, of course, Mel Blanc.
And that, boss, is just a trifle.
It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles.
Please join us again next week for another installment of Trifles. Show notes are available on SherlockHolmesPodcast.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and be sure to check out our longer show, I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere, where we interview notable Sherlockians and share news of the Sherlockian world.
You've taken my breath away, Mr. Holmes.
It is not cold which makes me shiver.
What then?
It is fear, Mr. Holmes. It is terror.